verse 40. We're in Luke chapter 10, verse 40. And this is basically just a contrast between Martha and Mary. Again, like I said, we are all in different places and on different solo missions. Now, we're not loners. Keep me in context. We're not loners, but we all are on solo missions, even though we're in the same family and part of one ministry, the ministry of reconciliation. We're all part of one ministry, which is the ministry of reconciliation, which is to bring people to Jesus Christ. And we may all do that together at times, but for the most part, I am responsible for what God has called me to do. I can't look at other saints and say, why they not helping me and why they not doing this and why they not doing that. They got their other stuff that God has called them to do, their own solo missions. Even though we're not loners, I got to emphasize that, because I don't want nobody saying, pass around teaching the saints to be loners and to do stuff on their own. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying we all are part of the same house, but we have solo missions. Just like here in Martha and Mary's story, they were under the same house, under the same roof, but their service was different and their ministries was different. So look here, verse 40. Individual task is a better way to put it. Not solo missions. We all have individual tasks. I have to accomplish what God has called me to do on this earth. God has given me a plan to do on this earth. You have to do what God has called you to do. Now, if we can help each other corporately, that's wonderful. But like I said a week ago in one of my posts, we can't take other saints' silence personal. When I'm in my closet, my wife will tell you, my wife has said, you need to go back to teaching more on Facebook. When I first started teaching on Facebook 3 years ago, I was on Tuesday and Thursday faithfully at 7:30. Faithfully. But as the street ministry and went into the building, I had to cut back on that and spend more personal time with the Lord, because the attacks and the devils would be different when God is leading you into different ministries. You have to spend time with God. You know what I'm saying? There are times where you have to turn off Facebook. There are times where you can't go into this ministry and be a part of this ministry and be a part of that ministry. People won't see you. And they have to be mature enough not to take your silence personal. I think Christians do that to one another. We do that to one another. We have these things in our minds and our emotions where we say, well, where's such and such at? Where's such and such at? Oh, they not supporting. They not trying to be a part of this. They not trying. We have this mental makeup where we think that people are doing stuff purposely, but we're not. We're doing that needful thing. I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but let me go. Verse 40. Martha was cumbered about much serving. She was overcharged with it. She was drawn in different directions. I always tell my wife, I said, be careful what you commit to. She's only been in this city for 2 years and only been in ministry basically for 2 years. She did some stuff at her church back in Texas with the kids? The kids, but now you're entering into a different level of ministry as far as being married to a pastor, and we do street ministry. So you have to be real careful how you pick and choose what you're going to be a part of, because you don't want to be all over the place. You don't want that. That's why when people tell me about stuff, I never commit to it. I say, okay, I'll see if I can make it, or, thanks for telling. I used to do that when I was young. I was commit to this and commit to that. And I was like Martha, I was cumbered about with so much stuff, drawn in all these different directions, overcharged with care. Now you notice that Jesus did not rebuke her serving, but her overcare of service. That's what he rebuked. It was too much. She was too caught up on this and caught up on that and caught up on this. So look at verse 40. But Martha was cumbered about much serving and came to him and said, look, now think about this now. Think about, yes, big sis, you can get burnt out in ministry. You can get burnt out. Listen, it won't happen over here. It will not happen over here. Because you have to be strategic with this thing. And this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not about activity. Because activity doesn't mean productivity. I can easily start, coming up with stuff to do. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But then you're burnt out. Because if you don't have that prayer life and that studying the word and fellowshipping with God down packed. See, in the quiet seasons when there's not much going on, like the winter's coming up, those are the seasons where you need to spend time with God so that you can get built up in your spirit. So when it is time to be busy, you'll have that strength. You'll have the word in you for when it is time to be busy. Look what Martha said to Jesus. Do you not care that my sister have left me alone to serve? And that's what we do. We get mad at God. God, why ain't nobody helping me? God, why ain't nobody doing this? I'm doing all this work by myself. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing this. Martha said to Jesus, do you not care that she have left me alone? Now, Jesus didn't rebuke Martha's serving. It was the too much, the micromanaging of everything. Martha just running around the house, running around, and this and that, and this and that, and this and that. And then when she gets tired and burnt out, she looks to God and say, God, she should be helping me. Or they should be helping me. Listen, we all have to strategically plan out all of the different tasks that God has given us. I know for a fact that street ministry, and possibly we'll be going back into a building soon, I know for a fact that that's going to demand massive amounts of prayer, fasting, and studying God's word and spending quality time with God. I have to master that. I have to master that because that's going to strengthen and it's going to help my character. It's going to help my self-control. It's going to help my temperament. It's going to help me deal with people. When stuff do get chaotic, it's going to give me that self-control that the Bible talks about, temperance. The fruit of the Spirit will be manifested in my life. But if I don't do first things first, if I try to be all in this and all in that, then, something go wrong in ministry. I snap out on the people. That's what she did. Because in the Greek language, that's what it means. She snapped out in the house. So the picture here is that she could have had dishes all in her hand, and she could have slammed the dishes down and say, Lord, Lord, look at her. She's sitting there. She's sitting on the floor, ain't doing nothing. Don't you care about me? This is what she did. I'm going to show you the language in a minute. This is what she did. And that's what happens when you don't have that foundation. You're busy in ministry like the Ephesians. They were in love with ministry, but not in love with God. Martha was in love with ministry, but not in love with God. She was in love with activity, but not in love with God.